I'm keen to explore the relationship between behaviors and emotions in relation to organizational values. Which is an awesome question. And it's one I've only got that a few times recently, but I've got it more. I had it a lot originally. When I say originally, like a couple of years ago, because when I first designed this game, you will have watched in the story or heard in the story about my journey with the cynicism to do with org values and realizing we've been doing it the wrong way. Or I feel like we've been doing it the wrong way. And naturally a question from that, I guess, is where this come from, Jude, is, okay, well, how do they connect? And because of that, I designed this thing called the emotion. I can't remember the name of it. I'm just reading it. Values and Emotion Canvas. And this is what it looks like. I'm going to show you the template, and I'll show you an example version of this. I designed this for an individual reflection. So the reflection between your own individual list of things you want to feel and not feel and the team values, rather than the team's emotions and the team values, if that makes sense. Because I thought it was more relevant from an individual perspective, because the question and the statement I hear a lot and used to hear a lot from leaders was, we've got these values, but nobody's doing anything about them, or they're not living up to it. And that always intrigued me, because I always took an empathetic view and said, okay, what's going on in their world that's stopping them from living up to that value? And so this canvas allows you to explore that. And so I was working with Kiwibank here in New Zealand a while ago. They were quite an early adopter of the game, actually. And what we did was write down their values. They've changed a little bit now. I caught up with them recently, but I don't think they call them traits, their values essentially. And so I'm showing you my example because we can't share their ones, but these are the top 5 things at the time that I wanted to feel in my work: free, inspired, curious, and brave, and rebellious. And what we then did here was go, okay, if I'm feeling inspired, I'm going to be really likely to be living up to our value of great. If I'm feeling curious, it's going to help me live up to this value of great. And if I'm feeling brave, I'm going to be gutsy. And if I'm feeling rebellious, it's not really maybe going to help me live up to side by side. In fact, it might get in the way of me living up to our value of side by side if I'm always rebelling, if I'm feeling really rebellious. And on the inverse, if I'm feeling anxious, it's going to be difficult for me to live up to their value of great if I was in the team, hypothetically. And if I'm feeling disconnected, there's no way I'm going to be living up to our value of side by side. I don't want to feel alone in my work. If I am feeling that, there's no way I'm going to be living up to side by side. And if I'm feeling confused or incapable, I won't be able to be gutsy. And so I designed this to help leaders and individuals look at the connection between the two. There's not actually a set way to then follow up these conversations, but I thought just in its first instance, this really illuminates how what we're feeling impacts the ability to live the org values on a day-to-day basis potentially. And if, for instance, if people in the Kiwibank team weren't living up to the side-by-side, maybe it's down to one of these emotional drivers and not because they're a bad person. But often we don't look at that. We just look at behavior. Yeah. So we can share that. We'll share that with you as well. I think this question might have come up in the last Q&A. Do you remember, Sophie? It might have. Yeah, now that I'm mentioning that. But we'll share this canvas with you as well so you can have a play around with it. I never got to the point of exploring it at an org level, but I'm sure it could be. It just never came up in one of the projects I was working on. I steered it towards individual conversations because I thought that's where it'd have the most impact. Yeah. Does that help, Jen?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's just about maybe thinking about the two-way aspect. So one is about how we want to feel at work and how's that connection, where's that connection to org values and the desired behaviors within the organization. So kind of going that way, but then equally, how do we make sure that when we're thinking about our values and we're thinking about our behaviors, in doing those things, we're not actually creating the things that our people say that they don't want to feel. Like if you've got an organization value that's related to something like, I don't know, respect or honesty or openness or whatever it might be, that actually you're finding a way to do that considers the emotional element of it, how people feel when you're living that value, because sometimes it can backfire.
Yeah, nice. So looking at it from the completely other angle. Yeah, I think that's a really nice thought. So you could design that into a conversation, into a canvas like this, right? And write the behaviors down and say, what is the potential emotional outcome of that behavior? What is
because Yeah, lots of organizations, they're talking about having, for example, more open and honest conversations. Well, there's ways of doing that can create good emotions or not so desired emotions.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point, isn't it, of what you're saying, is that the whole point of this is that's the bit that we forget. It's one thing to say this is how we're going to behave, but we forget about the emotional aspect to it.
Yeah, I love that. You could easily use the cards for that perspective as well, potentially. Like if you were to write down the behaviors of the team on a wall and then go, what is the potential emotional outcome of those behaviors, the pleasant and unpleasant. So being upfront and honest could make us feel defensive, but it also could make us feel connected. There's always
yeah, totally. And sometimes that's what people, if people are afraid of having conversations, sometimes what they don't realize is that when you have those conversations and you're open, honest, and respectful, actually the person feels more connected and engaged as a result. Sorry, my emotional support cat's just turned up.
I'd love that. I'd love if you do start exploring that. It would be awesome to see how you do it, or hear how you get on doing that. But
yeah, cool.
I certainly think there's space to explore definitely.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think there's something in it. It's just using the tool a different way and working out how best to do that.
Yeah. But certainly in my, like when I start to visualize what that could look like from an experience perspective, my mind always goes to how that plays out. I see it writing down the behaviors on the board and then getting a team to pick out whatever emotion cards that might be an outcome of those behaviors when they're enacted.